how to find your real freedom from anxiety. Your mind is constantly racing, worries about the future, regrets about the past, and endless what-ifs are pulling you into a spiral of anxiety. But what if there was an ancient wisdom to quiet these thoughts, bring your mind into peaceful clarity, and finally free yourself from the prison of anxiety? In this video, I'll show you how to apply Zen Buddhist teachings rooted in 2,500 years of wisdom to transform your anxious thoughts into a calm, clear, and centered mindset. Miss this, and you might remain trapped in your anxiety, but watch through and change your life starting now. Part 1. Akira's struggle with anxiety. Akira is overwhelmed with anxiety much like you. He experiences constant worry, racing thoughts, and physical symptoms that drain his energy. But every time he tries to find peace, something inside him clings to the worry. It's not that Akira lacks information about anxiety. He reads articles, watches videos, and even tries various techniques. But despite all of that, his mind remains in its anxious state. When he attempts to relax, he finds himself mentally rehearsing worst-case scenarios instead of being present. Every time he plans to start meditating or practicing mindfulness, his brain pulls him back into the familiar territory of worry and fear. He's stuck in a cycle of anxiety and mental exhaustion, and the worst part is he knows exactly what's happening, but can't seem to break free. This isn't just an Akira problem, it's a universal one. It's the mind's way of trying to control uncertainty. Every time we face the unknown or uncomfortable feelings, our mind seeks the illusion of control through worry, planning, ruminating, even catastrophizing. Akira feels like he's battling himself, and no matter how many anxiety reduction techniques he tries, they never last. He's starting to realize he needs something deeper, something more grounded than temporary relief techniques. In Buddhist philosophy, the anxious mind is often compared to a pond disturbed by a storm, with waves of worry making it impossible to see clearly. The Buddha once said, "Your suffering is not caused by the way things are, but by your thoughts about the way things are." This is exactly what's happening to Akira. His own thoughts are causing his suffering. His mind constantly pulls him away from the present moment towards worries about what might happen. The ancient Zen masters understood this battle and developed methods to calm the mind, bringing it into peace, presence, and acceptance. What Akira is experiencing is the first noble truth of Buddhism, the truth of suffering, or dukkha. The mind by nature seeks certainty and control. It rejects impermanence and change. But Buddhist teachings, especially those that influence Zen practice, show us that this anxiety is not something to fight against with brute force. Instead, the first step is awareness. The mind creates anxiety because it seeks to protect us from uncertainty, but it's possible to shift this dynamic. Awareness is key. Once Akira becomes aware that his mind is naturally wired to create stories and scenarios to feel in control, he can stop being so hard on himself. This is the first lesson in Zen Buddhist practice. Before trying to change the mind, you have to understand it. For Akira, the battle is clear. His mind is creating anxiety because it's wired to do so, but now he sees that the first step is not to fight his mind or force it to be different. It's about awareness. When Akira becomes aware of his mind's tendency to worry, he stops trying to suppress his anxiety and instead acknowledges the role his mind plays in trying to keep him safe. But rather than give in to those protective tendencies, Akira learns to observe them without judgment. This is a core principle of Zen Buddhist practice. Before you can transform your thoughts, you must first become aware of them. Awareness is only the first step. Now that Akira has seen his mind for what it is, how does he move forward? The next phase of Zen Buddhist teaching guides him how to release the grip of anxiety and flow with impermanence rather than fighting against it. Part 2. Embracing impermanence. Akira realizes that his old methods, trying to control his anxiety, pushing away uncomfortable feelings, aren't working. So he starts looking for deeper wisdom. That's when he discovers the Buddhist teaching of anicca, or impermanence. The ancient teaching speaks about the constantly changing nature of all things. Nothing remains the same. Everything arises and passes away. One of the Buddha's core teachings resonates deeply with Akira. Everything that has a beginning has an ending. Make your peace with that and all will be well. This confuses him at first. How can accepting that everything changes lead to peace? But the more he reflects on it, the more he understands that maybe the reason he's been struggling so much is because he's been fighting against life's natural impermanence, against his own changing emotions. Akira starts to wonder, what if freedom from anxiety wasn't about controlling his thoughts? What if there was a way to approach his feelings that didn't involve constant resistance? The Zen Buddhist approach, rooted in this ancient wisdom, suggests that maybe the solution isn't to fight harder, but to stop fighting altogether, to find peace within the ever-changing nature of life. The concept of non-attachment teaches something that feels counterintuitive in today's world, that by accepting the impermanent flow of life rather than resisting it, we can actually find peace. It's not about giving up or being passive, it's about aligning ourselves with the true nature of reality. When we grasp too tightly, suffering increases, but when we hold things lightly, recognizing their transient nature, we move through life with less anxiety. Akira begins to see that his constant battle to control his thoughts and feelings only makes his anxiety worse. By embracing this ancient Buddhist wisdom, he realizes that it's possible to face uncertainty without being consumed by it. Instead of viewing his anxious feelings as enemies, he starts seeing them as temporary waves in his consciousness. Akira starts applying non-attachment in his life. Instead of fighting against every anxious thought, he learns to approach them with curiosity. When anxiety arises, whether it's about work, relationships, or the future, he pauses and reminds himself not to resist it. He accepts that uncomfortable feelings are part of life's flow, and in doing so, he releases the inner struggle. This shift makes his anxiety feel lighter. Where once he battled with himself to control his thoughts, he now feels a growing sense of peace in the process. This is the next step in Zen Buddhist practice, releasing resistance and finding harmony with impermanence. Now that Akira has started to accept the changing nature of his thoughts and feelings, he needs to learn how to cultivate stillness and present moment awareness to deepen his journey. Part 3. The power of mindful presence. Akira's journey continues as he searches for ways to ground himself in the present moment. That's when he encounters Zazen, or seated meditation practice. At first, the idea seems simple, just sitting in awareness of the present moment. But as Akira tries it, he discovers how difficult it is to stay present while his mind pulls him toward past regrets or future fears. He's used to constant mental activity, to thinking that doing more is the solution. But as he learns from Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings, the present moment is the only moment available to us, and it is the door to all moments. Akira begins to realize that true freedom from anxiety doesn't come from constantly trying to fix himself. It comes from being fully present. Through Zazen, Akira experiences a powerful shift. Instead of his mind feeling torn between past and future, it starts to settle in the now. Just like muddy water in a glass becomes clear when left undisturbed, Akira's mind becomes more peaceful the more he practices present moment awareness. It's in these moments of mindful presence that he starts to see his anxiety for what it really is, not a permanent part of himself, but a temporary state of mind that arises and passes away. Akira realizes that his constant need to control the future was what made his mind so anxious. In mindful presence, he finds a spaciousness in his awareness, a peace he hadn't experienced before. Instead of being caught in the grip of anxiety, he takes a step back, practices Zazen, and learns to rest in the present moment. In the quietness of now, he discovers his own inner strength. This is the third step in Zen Buddhist practice. cultivating present moment awareness. Akira begins to embrace the idea that mindfulness, like the lotus flower growing in muddy water but remaining clean and beautiful, provides the foundation for transformation. Just as the lotus flower rises through the mud to bloom in purity, Akira realizes that his anxious thoughts, the very things that cause stress and suffering, can become the ground for his awakening. By practicing mindfulness daily, he not only calms his mind, but also develops a steady awareness. Now, when anxious thoughts arise, his mind remains spacious, and he's able to observe them with a calm, compassionate attention. But mindfulness alone isn't enough. Akira has learned how to be present with his thoughts, but now he must take that present awareness and turn it into compassionate action. Part 4. Turning awareness into compassionate action. As Akira continues practicing mindfulness, something begins to change. His mind, once dominated by anxiety, becomes a source of wisdom and compassionate response. He recalls the teachings of loving-kindness meditation, where practitioners cultivate genuine care for themselves and others. The Buddhist tradition believes in a deep connection between awareness and compassionate action. One cannot exist fully without the other. Akira realizes that mindfulness has given him presence, but now it's time to turn that awareness into intentional, compassionate response to his anxiety. Much like Zen practitioners who apply their mindfulness to everyday activities, Akira starts to see his anxious moments as opportunities for self-compassion. With patience and kindness toward himself, every anxious thought becomes an invitation to practice. He understands that he doesn't need to eliminate anxiety completely. Instead, he can meet it with a compassionate heart. The Buddhist teaching of karuna, compassion, shows that true transformation comes from how we relate to our suffering. If the mind is aware but harsh, suffering increases. But if the mind is both aware and kind, healing begins. In the same way, Akira learns that his mindfulness needs to be infused with self-compassion. Meditation without compassion can become another form of self-criticism, and compassion without awareness can miss the deeper patterns of the mind. The key is balance. The Buddha's wisdom shows him that when both are aligned, he can transform his relationship with anxiety without feeling overwhelmed. The fourth step in Zen Buddhist practice is compassionate action. Akira realizes that his freedom from anxiety doesn't come from never feeling anxious again. It comes from meeting each anxious moment with kind awareness. He begins to approach his work, relationships, and personal challenges with this compassionate presence, giving each difficult feeling space to be acknowledged without judgment. As a result, he finds that the anxiety he once dreaded now seems more manageable, and he moves through it with gentle determination. Akira is no longer fighting against himself. He's present and compassionate, like a Zen practitioner mindfully washing dishes, not rushing through to get to something better, but fully engaged in each moment with accepting awareness. But even with mindfulness and compassion, there's one more essential piece to the puzzle. Part 5. The path of continuous practice. Akira has been making steady progress. He's learned to calm his mind through present moment awareness, and he's started to meet his anxiety with compassion rather than resistance. But as the days go by, he finds himself growing impatient. Despite his practice and effort, anxiety still arises, and sometimes it feels just as intense as before. The frustration builds, and Akira begins to wonder if he's doing something wrong. That's when he remembers the Zen teaching of Shoshin, or beginner's mind. The path of practice is not linear. It unfolds gradually through consistent, patient effort. In Zen, this is often compared to water slowly wearing away a stone, not through force, but through gentle persistence. Akira realizes that just like a dedicated practitioner, he needs to embrace the day-by-day nature of the path. The progress may seem slow, but rushing it will only create more resistance. Akira learns to appreciate the small moments of peace that his practice brings. By letting go of his expectations for immediate results, he finds that he is more at peace with his journey. Like the changing seasons, he knows that his transformation will continue, but it will happen in its own time. The art of patient practice becomes his final lesson in finding freedom from anxiety, and with it, he feels a growing sense of peace that extends beyond just the absence of anxiety. So where are you on this journey? Are you still fighting against your anxious mind, or are you ready to embrace the Zen Buddhist approach? Start with one step, whether it's practicing mindful presence, applying more self-compassion, or learning to be patient with your practice. Your freedom will come, but it will unfold in its own time. If this video gave you some insight, don't forget to subscribe to Moon Mind Temple, and let's continue this journey of finding true freedom from anxiety together.